Hi, my name is Nicole Slowey and I am the Operations Director here at Qdos. In this video today, I'm going to be talking about a recent announcement by the government in respect of employment status. So this week we saw the government publish some updated guidance on employment status, and they've coined it as a one-stop shop for individuals and businesses to understand employment rights that are applicable to those individuals that they engage, or the rights that are relevant to the individuals themselves. Alongside the guidance, HMRC published a response to a 2018 consultation on employment status, and that's specifically what we'll be covering today. Given the consultation itself actually took place over 4 years ago, it's probably useful to recap on what it was specifically designed to look at. Essentially, the consultation sought to look at reforms to employment status in addition to the recommendations that were made as part of the Matthew Taylor review. The remit of the consultation was to understand the viability of any potential changes, what that could mean from a legal perspective, and what other wider implications there would be if those changes were in fact implemented. In addition to that, the consultation also sought further recommendations and suggestions on how best to improve the application of employment status from both a rights and a tax perspective. The headline outcome from the government's response to the consultation is that they feel that now is not the right time to align employment status for rights and tax. This specific point has been met with a huge amount of challenge in the industry, largely because we have a significant number of individuals operating in the UK at the minute with effectively zero rights employment. Those individuals are essentially contractors operating on an inside IR35 basis via their own limited company, where they are paying taxes as though they were an employee, so national insurance and pay as you earn on their earnings, but equally then not in turn receiving any employment rights from the organisations that are engaging them. This was flagged as being a shortfall as part of IR35 reform, and we had hoped that this would have been addressed actually in advance of the reform itself, given this original consultation actually took place in 2018. The challenge for organisations like ours and other commentators in the marketplace is, if we're not making these changes now, when are we actually talking about making the changes? The government cited a series of reasons why it didn't think it was right to make changes now. The first and foremost being that it was complex and difficult to make changes. There was no general consensus from respondents to the consultation as to what the changes could be. The fact that we are still in a period of recovery following the post-pandemic period, and as such, the culmination of all of these things largely meant that they didn't think that now was the right time to make those changes. As part of the government's response to that particular point in the consultation, there is a gesture in there that talks about the fact that the government will continue to work with organisations and businesses to understand what improvements could be made to the consideration around tax and employment status. Given that we've been here many times before, it's understandable that people don't have any confidence in that sentiment that was expressed in that segment of the report. One of the further points to come out of the consultation was that the government is satisfied with our 3-tier employment status framework. This is where we have the status of employee, a Limb B worker, and self-employed. Worker status has been talked about a lot recently, more specifically off of the back of the recent Uber case, where it was ruled that the individuals were in fact workers and as such should be subject to a series of employment rights. This itself has wider ramifications throughout the gig economy. And the gig economy was actually referenced quite significantly in the government's consultation as far as setting the scene to demonstrate how much our world of work has actually changed in the UK over recent times. It was clear from the consultation that the government also wanted to use this as an opportunity to once again showcase and talk about the measures that it introduced to help businesses during the pandemic era. And what this meant is that it largely dismissed some of the key points from the Good Work Plan. In essence, what HMRC has said is now is not the right time to reform our employment rights frameworks, how we consider employment and tax status, because we're in a place where we need to consider the wider economic ramifications given the tumultuous times that we've actually gone through during the COVID-19 pandemic era. The only point that the government has ultimately taken action on is issuing guidance on employment status, which it actually has done as part of publishing its response to the consultation originally. In the round for the limited company contractor space, there's probably very little positives that we can actually take from the government's response to the consultation. There is, of course, the sentiment that they express to continue to work with organisations to ensure that our frameworks are appropriate and fit for purpose for our current labour market. But it remains to be seen what will actually happen with that, if anything at all. To stay up to date with news and insights from Qdos, please subscribe to our channel.